The alien ship appeared in the night sky over small-town Nebraska. Ruby Adams noticed it first. She was sitting on her porch swing enjoying the cool evening air when the stars seemed to shift and move. The local sheriff thought she was crazy when she called to report it, but then others began to call too by dawn. Everyone in Millfield knew something was hovering above their town. Ruby was 32 years old and worked as a nurse at the community hospital. She lived alone in the small house. Her grandparents left her and mostly kept to herself. She never expected to be the first contact between humans and an alien species. Yet here she was, watching the metallic disk shimmer in the early morning light. The military arrived by noon setting, up blockades around town and ordering everyone to stay in their homes. Ruby watched from her window as men in uniform walked through her garden, their weapons ready. This was not how first contact was supposed to happen. She thought it should be. Peaceful, not filled with guns and fear. When the ship finally landed, it chose Ruby's backyard. The ground trembled and her cups rattled in the kitchen cabinet. She peered through her curtains as the silver disc settled onto her tomato plants, crushing her carefully tended garden. The military surrounded her house, shouting orders into radios and pointing weapons at the craft. A door opened in the side of the ship, and Ruby held her breath, waiting to see what would emerge. She expected something terrifying with tentacles or multiple eyes. Instead, a slender figure stepped out, looking almost human except for the blue tint to her skin and the extra finger on each hand. The alien was female, or appeared to be, and wore something like a silver jumpsuit. Her hair was white and flowed down her back like water. The soldiers tensed, ready to fire, but the alien held up her hands in a universal gesture of peace. She spoke, and Ruby was shocked to hear English, though the accent was strange. "I come, seeking help," she said. "I'm alone and my people are dying," before anyone could respond. The alien collapsed onto Ruby's flattened tomatoes. The soldiers moved forward, but Ruby acted on instinct, rushing out her back door and kneeling beside the fallen visitor. The military shouted for her to get back, but Ruby was a nurse first and foremost. This was a patient in need. The alien's skin felt cool to the touch, but Ruby could detect a pulse. It was faster than human, but steady. "She lives," Ruby called out. "She needs medical attention," against all protocols and the shouted commands of the military. Ruby helped carry the unconscious alien into her house and laid her on the couch. The commander of the military unit, Colonel Samantha West, stormed in. After her. "What do you think you're doing?" she demanded. "Saving a life," Ruby replied calmly as she checked the alien's vital signs. "I'm a nurse." "It's what I do." Colonel West looked like she wanted to argue, but instead ordered her men to secure the perimeter. "They need a scientist, not a small-town nurse," she muttered. "Scientists will take too long," Ruby said. "This being needs help now and there might not be much time." The alien's breathing had grown labored and her blue skin had taken on a grayish tinger. Reluctantly, Colonel West allowed Ruby to continue her examination as they waited for specialists to arrive from the nearest military base. Ruby noticed a small device attached to the alien's wrist. It glowed faintly and seemed to be projecting something like vital signs. The alien opened her eyes. They were silver with no pupils yet. Somehow Ruby could feel them focus on her. "My name is Lyra," she whispered. "My ship detected your biological compatibility." Compatible for what, Ruby asked as she placed a cool cloth on the alien's forehead. "Healing," Lyra replied. "Our species can only be healed by compatible life forms." She reached for Ruby's hand, placing it over her chest, where a human heart would be. Ruby felt a strange, tingling sensation spreading up her arm. Colonel West moved to pull them apart, but Ruby shook her head. "It's okay," she said, somehow knowing it was true. The tingling continued, spreading throughout Ruby's body. It didn't hurt, but felt like gentle electricity flowing from her to the alien. "My people are under attack," Lyra explained as color slowly returned to her face. "We need allies who can help us survive the devourers. They consume worlds and leave nothing behind." Ruby listened as Lyra described her civilization, a peaceful spacefaring race that had encountered a predatory species 3 years ago. The devourers, as she called them, destroyed planet after planet, converting all organic matter into fuel for their massive ships. Lyra's people were fighting back but losing badly. "I was sent to find help," Lyra said. "Earth has been hidden from space travel routes for centuries, protected by ancient agreements. But those agreements mean nothing to the devourers. They will find you eventually." Colonel West had been quietly listening her, expression grim. How long, she asked, and of your Earth years perhaps less, Lyra replied. We hope to prepare you, give you our technology so you might defend yourselves. The alien was growing stronger as Ruby continued to help heal her. The process was draining but not painful. She could feel Lyra's gratitude flowing back through their connection. Specialists arrived by evening, men and women in lab coats who looked at Ruby with suspicion. Why is a civilian handling the alien? One of them demanded. Because she saved my life, Lyra replied, sitting up slowly on the couch. Her color almost normal now. Ruby Adams has the strongest healing compatibility I've ever encountered. She is precious to my people. The scientists wanted to take Lyra to a secure facility for testing, but the alien refused to be separated from Ruby. We need her, she insisted. My ship contains technology that will help Earth prepare, but it will only activate for compatible humans. Ruby found herself caught between worlds, between her quiet life as a small-town nurse and an interstellar conflict that threatened all humanity. Colonel West surprisingly took her side. The alien responded to her. She said to the scientists, "We need to understand this compatibility." That night, Ruby sat with Lyra in her living room while armed guards stood outside her windows. The alien explained that compatibility was rare, even among her own people. It meant their life energies resonated at similar frequencies, allowing them to share strength. And healing, Lyra showed Ruby a small crystal from her ship. It contains star maps, she explained, and the location of my homeworld. If you are willing, we would like to establish an alliance. Ruby looked at the crystal glowing softly in her palm. Somehow, she knew this moment would change everything. Not just for her, but for all of humanity. Sometimes the most important decisions come in the quietest moments, she thought. Will you help us? Lyra asked, her silver eyes reflecting the crystal light. Will you be our voice among your people? Ruby thought about her small life in Millfield, the routine of hospital shifts and quiet evenings on her porch. She thought about the threat Lyra described, the devourers consuming world after world, moving inexorably toward Earth. She thought about the responsibility being placed on her shoulders. She closed her hand around the crystal, feeling its warmth pulse in time with her heartbeat. Yes, she said, I will help. The next morning, Ruby woke to find her small house transformed into a military operations center. Soldiers guarded every entrance and scientists huddled around equipment they had brought in overnight. Lyra sat at the kitchen table drinking water and observing everything with curious silver eyes. Colonel West entered carrying a tablet filled with questions from government officials. How are you feeling today? She asked Ruby. Like my life has been turned upside down. Ruby replied honestly. But I'm ready to help. The colonel nodded appreciatively. Most civilians would be falling apart by now, she said. You're handling this remarkably well. Ruby shrugged. My grandmother always said extraordinary times call for extraordinary courage. She looked at Lyra, who smiled at the human expression. The alien stood up gracefully. We should retrieve the technology from my ship. She said it contains communication devices that will allow Ruby to speak with my people's council. Under heavy guard, they walked to the spacecraft still sitting in Ruby's flattened garden. The door opened at Lyra's approach and Ruby followed her inside, while Colonel West and two scientists came behind them. The interior was surprisingly simple. Curved walls of a pearly material, and few visible controls. Lyra placed her hand on a panel and spoke in a musical language that the translation device on her wrist converted to English, identifying Ruby Adams as Earth Ambassador and compatible healer, requesting council approval. A compartment opened in the wall, revealing a small chest. Lyra lifted it carefully and presented it to Ruby. This contains seeds of alliance. She explained, our most advanced healing technology and communication devices. Only you can activate them because of our compatibility. Ruby accepted the chest, feeling its surprising lightness. The scientists immediately moved forward with scanning equipment, but Lyra shook her head. The technology is biologically keyed to Ruby. She said your equipment cannot analyze it without damaging the organic components back in the house. Ruby opened the chest. Inside were several crystal objects similar to the one Lyra had shown her the previous night, along with what looked like jewelry. Delicate bands of silver, metal, and more crystals. Lyra explained that these were communication devices and medical tools designed to work with compatible biology. Place this on your wrist, Lyra instructed, holding up a bracelet. It will allow you to speak directly with my People's Council. Ruby hesitated, looking at Colonel West. The military officer nodded, though she did not look entirely comfortable with the situation. Go ahead, she said, but we record everything. The bracelet felt cool against Ruby's skin for a moment, then seemed to adjust, becoming neither hot nor cold, just present. Lyra touched one of the crystals and it glowed with inner light. Hold this in your palm. The alien instructed. When Ruby did as she was asked, a holographic image appeared above the crystal. 3 aliens similar to Lyra, but with subtle differences in features and the color of their skin, which ranged from pale blue to deep indigo. They spoke in their musical language, which the bracelet translated into Ruby's mind. Greetings, Ruby. Atoms of Earth, we are the Council of Elders from Avaria. We thank you for helping our ambassador and welcome this first contact between our worlds. Ruby was unsure how to respond, but found the words coming naturally. I am honored to meet you, and hope for friendship between our peoples. The council members nodded in unison. Our scanner shows exceptional compatibility. The one with deep indigo skin said, this is fortunate. We have much to offer each other in the face of common danger. Over the next hour, Ruby learned more about the Avarians and their conflict with the race they called Devourers, beings that consumed all organic matter on planets. Leaving barren husks behind, the Devourers had destroyed 17 Avarian colony worlds and damaged their home planet in an attack 6 months prior. We have technology that can help Earth defend itself when they arrive, one council member explained. But we need compatible humans to use it. Our weapons and shields are biologically linked. They function through the energy of living beings. Colonel West, who had been listening quietly, stepped forward. How many compatible humans would you need? She asked. The council exchanged glances. Our scans of your world indicate approximately 1 in 10,000 humans would have some level of compatibility. The indigo-skinned elder replied. We would need perhaps 500 to create an effective defense network. Ruby did the math that meant testing millions of people to find enough compatible ones. The task seemed overwhelming, but not impossible. Colonel West seemed to be thinking the same thing. We can begin testing immediately, she said, starting with military personnel and expanding outward. The council approved and arrangements were made to bring more Avarian ships to Earth, each carrying technology and representatives to help identify compatible humans. Within 2 weeks, the small town of Millfield had become the center of an international operation with representatives from every major government arriving to meet the aliens. Ruby found herself thrust into the role of ambassador, her compatibility with Lyra making her uniquely valuable. She divided her time between helping Lyra communicate with human authorities and learning to use the Avarian healing technology, which proved capable of curing diseases that had baffled human medicine. One evening, as they sat on Ruby's porch watching the sunset, Lyra explained more about the connection between them. Compatible beings share life energy, she said, each strengthening the other. It is why you feel energized rather than drained when we work together. Ruby had noticed this. The more time she spent with Lyra, the stronger she felt. Her senses seemed sharper, her mind clearer. Is this permanent? She asked Lee. Ra nodded. Once established, the connection remains even across great distances. It is how our people maintain our bonds through space. In the distance, Ruby could see the lights of the military compound that had sprung up around her property. Hundreds of people worked there now, screening potential compatibles and studying Avarian technology. She wondered what her life would look like when this was over, if it would ever be over. You are worried? Lyra observed. Ruby smiled. The alien had become adept at reading her emotions. Yes, she admitted, I never expected any of this. I was just a nurse in a small town. Now I'm at the center of first contact with an alien species. Lyra touched Ruby's hand gently. Sometimes the universe chooses us for roles we never imagined. It is the same among my people. I was a medical technician before the war with the Devourers began. The following day brought new developments as the first group of compatible humans was identified. Among the military personnel tested, a young lieutenant named Amy Lopez showed almost as strong compatibility as Ruby herself. The Avarians were pleased and brought more technology from their ships. Ruby watched as Amy was fitted with a bracelet similar to her own. The lieutenant adapted quickly, asking intelligent questions about the Avarian defensive systems and how humans could help implement them. Ruby felt a sense of relief knowing she was no longer the only bridge between the species, as more Compatibles were found. They formed what the military called the bridge team. Humans capable of activating and using Avarian technology. Ruby served as their leader. Not because she sought the position, but because her connection with Lyra was the strongest and most stable. 3 weeks after first contact, the Avarians delivered concerning news their long-range scouts had detected Devourer activity at the edge of the solar system. They are sending probes, Colonel West informed Ruby during their morning briefing. We may have less time than we thought. The information was kept classified to prevent panic, but the effort to find compatible humans accelerated. Testing centers were established in major cities around the world with Avarians working alongside human medical personnel. The cover story involved medical research and new treatment protocols. Ruby spent long hours working with the new compatibles, teaching them what she had learned from Lyra about Avarian technology. She was exhausted, but driven by the knowledge that Earth's survival might depend on their success at night. When she finally returned to her house, which now felt like a strange island in the middle of a military base, Ruby would sit with Lyra on the porch. The alien had become a friend, offering comfort and understanding when the burden seemed too heavy. "We will succeed," Lyra assured her one evening. "The combined strength of our peoples will be enough." Ruby hoped she was right. But fear lingered in her heart. "Still have so much to learn," she said, and so little timely. Ra looked up at the stars visible through the military floodlights. "We have faced the Devourers before," she said. "They are powerful, but not invincible. Their weakness is their single-mindedness. They cannot imagine beings unlike themselves. It makes them predictable." Ruby considered this, watching as a new Avarian ship descended through the clouds, bringing more technology and representatives. Their silver crafts had become a common sight. In the skies over Millfield, though, most of the world remained unaware of their presence. Tomorrow they would begin testing the first defensive system, a network of shields designed to protect key locations. Ruby would be connected to the central node, her compatibility making her crucial to the operation. She felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her. "You should rest," Lyra said. "Noting Ruby's fatigue, tomorrow will require your full strength." Ruby nodded, knowing the alien was right, but her mind was too full for sleep, too aware of what was at stake. The fate of two worlds now rested on the success of their alliance, and she was at the heart of it all, a small-town nurse chosen by circumstance to help save humanity. The first test of the Avarian defense system was scheduled for dawn. Ruby woke before her alarm, feeling the familiar tingling sensation that indicated Lyra was nearby. The alien stood at her bedroom window, looking out at the military base where technicians made final preparations. "Today we see if our peoples can truly work together," Lyra said without turning around. Ruby dressed quickly in the uniform Colonel West had provided for her. It resembled standard military gear but incorporated Avarian technology, small crystals embedded at key points to enhance the natural energy flow of her body. She had grown accustomed to the subtle vibration they emitted, a constant reminder of her connection to Lyra and the Avarian technology. At the testing facility, Ruby met with the other compatibles, now numbering 47. Each had been assigned to different aspects of the defense system. Amy Lopez would coordinate shield deployment, while others would manage weapons targeting communications and detection systems. Ruby, as the primary compatible, would connect to the central node, linking all systems together. The node was a crystalline structure the size of a small car, positioned in the center of the facility. It hummed with energy that Ruby could feel across the room. Colonel West stood nearby with several government officials who had come to witness the test area. "You ready?" the colonel asked. Ruby could see the concern behind her professional demeanor. "As ready as I can be," Ruby replied. Honestly, she approached the node and placed her hands on the smooth surface immediately. The crystals embedded in her uniform began to glow in response. The node itself brightened, its energy flowing into Ruby and through her to the other compatibles. In the room, Ruby closed her eyes as information flooded her mind. She could see through the sensors of the defense system, detecting objects in orbit around Earth. She could feel the shield generators powering up, ready to create protective barriers. Around key locations, she was connected to each compatible, their energy joining with hers to form a network. "Begin the test," Colonel West ordered. Ruby directed energy to the shield systems, feeling Amy Lopez respond by deploying protective barriers. Around the testing facility and 3 other locations around the globe, the shields became visible as faint blue domes of light. The officials murmured in appreciation, but Ruby barely heard them. She was too focused on maintaining the network. Suddenly, an alarm sounded. A technician called out unidentified objects entering. Atmosphere trajectory indicates controlled descent, not meteors. Colonel West moved quickly to the communication station. How many, she demanded. 7, the technician replied. Their energy signature matches the readings we were told to watch for. Devourers. Lyra said, her voice tight with tension. They have sent scouts earlier than we anticipated. Ruby felt fear ripple through the network, threatening to destabilize the connections. Focus, she called out to the other compatibles. Remember your training. The Devourers are testing us. We need to show our strength through the defense system. Ruby could track the incoming objects. Sleek black shapes moving faster than any human aircraft. They split up, approaching different locations around the globe. Target the one heading this way, Ruby instructed Amy. Divert shield power to withstand impact. Amy nodded, her face concentrated as she redirected energy. The shield over the facility brightened. Just as the black object slammed into it, the impact sent vibrations through the network. Ruby gasped at the sensation but held firm. The shield wavered but did not break. The Devourer's craft circled around, attempting to find weakness. Ruby directed the weapon systems to target it, feeling the other compatibles respond. The first shot missed, but the second clipped the craft's wing, sending it spinning away. Similar reports came in from around the globe. The Devourer scouts were testing Earth's defenses and finding them stronger than expected. Ruby maintained the network for 4 hours as the scouts continued their probing attacks until finally they retreated back to space. When the all-clear was given, Ruby released her connection to the node, staggering slightly as the energy flow diminished. Lyra was at her side, immediately supporting her. The other compatibles looked similarly drained but triumphant. We did it, Amy said, her eyes bright with excitement. We fought them off. Not fought off, Colonel West. Corrected. Tested. They were assessing our capabilities, and now they know we can defend ourselves. The Avarian Council requested an immediate conference. Ruby placed her hand on the communication crystal and their holographic forms appeared. They looked grave despite the apparent success. It begins sooner than we predicted. The indigo-skinned elder said the Devourers will now report back to their main fleet. You have perhaps 3 months before they arrive in force. 3 months, Colonel West repeated. That is not enough time. We have fewer than 50 compatibles and need hundreds more. The Council acknowledged this truth. We will send more ships to help with the search they promised and bring defensive technology for your moon base. It will provide an outer layer of protection. In the days that followed, Ruby barely slept. The search for compatibles intensified, with testing centers working around the clock to screen as many humans as possible. Avarian ships arrived daily, bringing more resources and personnel. 1 month after the first attack, they had found 226 compatibles. Not enough, but progress. Ruby worked with each of them, helping them understand their connection to the technology and to each other. The network was growing stronger, but still fragile. At night, when exhaustion finally forced her to rest, Ruby would sit with Lyra on the porch of her house, discussing strategies and possibilities. The alien had become more than an ambassador. She was a friend and confidant. Do you think? Well, when? Ruby asked one night, looking up at the stars where somewhere the Devourer fleet was approaching. Lyra was quiet for a moment. Your people surprise me, she said. Finally, you are young as a species, technologically, primitive by Avarian standards, yet you adapt quickly and your spirit is strong. I believe together we have a chance. It wasn't the resounding yes Ruby had hoped for, but it was honest, and somehow that meant more. 2 months after the first attack, they had found 384 compatibles. The defense network now extended to major cities around the world, and the moon base was operational with a mixed crew of humans and Avarians working together to monitor deep space. The Devourers had sent no more scouts, but long-range sensors detected a large fleet moving steadily toward Earth. Ruby now held the rank of commander. Though she still thought of herself as a nurse at heart, she led training sessions for new compatibles and worked with scientists to improve the integration of human and Avarian technology. Her days were long, her responsibilities heavy, but she had found strength she never knew she possessed. One evening, as Ruby reviewed defense protocols with Colonel West, a messenger arrived from the Avarian Council requesting her presence immediately. She found Lyra waiting with 3 council members who had come in person rather than communicating via hologram. "We have detected a change in the Devourer fleet," the Indigo Elder said. "They have accelerated their approach. They will reach Earth in 2 weeks." Ruby felt her heart sink. 2 weeks. They were not ready. They needed more time, more compatibles, more training. Colonel West immediately began issuing orders, contacting government leaders and military commanders around the world. That night, Ruby could not sleep. She stood on her porch, looking up at the stars, wondering what the Devourers were like. Did they feel anything as they destroyed world after world? Did they understand the lives they were ending? She could not comprehend such emptiness. Lee rejoined her, sensing her distress. "They consume because it is their nature." The aliens said they evolved on a dying world and developed the ability to convert organic matter directly into energy. It allowed them to survive but twisted them. They no longer build. They only take. "How do you fight something like that?" Ruby asked, with connection. Lyra replied, "That is what they lack and what we have. Our peoples, bonded together, share strength. The Devourers are powerful but isolated. Each ship acts alone. They have numbers, but we have unity." The next day, Ruby gathered all the compatibles for an unprecedented joint connection linking through the defense network. To share energy and information, the strain was enormous, but the result was a stronger, more resilient system. Each compatible learning from the others, experiencing their unique connection to the Avarian technology. As the Devourer fleet drew closer, the Earth-prepared broadcast warned of unusual solar activity, explaining the occasional appearance of shields and strange lights in the sky. Most humans remained unaware of the true danger, believing the increased military presence and new defense installations were part of an international cooperative exercise. Ruby moved to the moon base to help coordinate the outer defenses. The view of Earth from there, a blue marble hanging in space, reminded her of what was at stake. Not just her small town or even her country, but all of humanity. The weight of that responsibility should have crushed her, but instead it focused her, giving purpose to every decision, every action. The Avarians shared their experiences, fighting the Devourers, the tactics that had worked and failed, the weaknesses they had discovered. Ruby absorbed this knowledge, integrating it with human military strategy to create a defense plan unlike any before. The blend of 2 species approaches might be enough to surprise the enemy. At night, in her small quarters on the moon base, Ruby would touch the crystals Lyra had given her. Feeling the connection to the alien across the void, she drew comfort. 3 days before the Devourer fleet was expected to reach Earth, the Avarian long-range sensors detected a change in their approach pattern. The enemy ships had split into 3 groups, each targeting different areas of the planet. This was new, behavior different from what the Avarians had experienced before. "They are adapting," Lyra explained during the emergency council meeting. "They have studied our previous encounters and developed new tactics." Colonel West frowned. "We need to adjust our defense strategy," she said, looking at the holographic display showing the approaching fleet spread across a wide arc. Ruby studied the display, considering what they knew about Devourer behavior. "They consume," she said, thinking aloud. "They always target the highest concentrations of organic matter first." She pointed to the hologram. "The largest group is heading toward Asia, the most populated region, then North America, and finally Europe. They want to maximize their feeding." The council and military commanders agreed with her assessment, and resources were allocated accordingly, with more shield generators and weapons platforms moved to the areas most likely to be attacked. First, Ruby coordinated with compatibles in each region, ensuring they understood the priorities and backup plans. The final day before the expected attack was spent in frantic preparation. Civilians in potential target zones were evacuated to underground shelters. Under the guise of disaster drills, world leaders prepared emergency broadcasts to explain the situation once the attack began. There was no more time for secrecy, only for action. Ruby barely slept that night. She lay in her quarters at the main defense facility, feeling the weight of tomorrow pressing down on her. Lyra entered quietly, sitting beside her bed. "You should rest," the alien said. "You will need your strength. I keep thinking about all the people who don't know." Ruby said, "All the ordinary lives that will change tomorrow, no matter what happens. Nothing will ever be the same." Lyra nodded. "Change comes to all worlds eventually," she said, sometimes slowly. sometimes in a single moment. The measure of a species is how they face that change. Ruby thought about her own journey from small-town nurse to commander. In a planetary defense force in just a few short months she had changed, but her core remained the same. Her desire to help, to heal, to protect life whether human or alienate. Dawn Ruby took her position at the central node in the main defense facility. Colonel West stood nearby, coordinating with military forces around the world. The Avarian Council members were present as well, their silver eyes reflecting the glow of monitoring screens. The first alarm came at exactly 0743 hours. Devourer ships entering upper atmosphere. Colonel West announced all defense systems activator. He placed her hands on the node, feeling the immediate connection to the network of compatibles around the world. She could sense Amy Lopez in the Asian Defense Center and others at their stations in Europe, Africa, South America, all linked through Avarian technology, their energies joining to form a unified defense. Through the system's sensors, Ruby could see the Devourer ships, massive black vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They moved with precision, splitting further into smaller attack groups targeting major population centers. The first shields activated as they descended, glowing blue barriers springing up over cities and key installations. Initial contact in the Asian sector. Amy reported through the network shield holding, but power drain is significant. Ruby redirected energy from secondary systems, strengthening the shields where they were needed. Most the first weapons fired lances of energy targeting the Devourer ships. Most glanced off their hulls, but a few found weak points, sending cascades of dark matter into space. The battle intensified as more Devourer ships entered the atmosphere. Ruby maintained the network, feeling the strain as shields took hit after hit. Some compatibles faltered under the pressure, but others stepped in to support them. The fluid cooperation between humans and Avarians creating a resilience the Devourers had never encountered before. 2 hours into the attack, the first shield fell over a small city in northern China. Ruby felt the compatible there cry out as the connection broke. The Devourer ship descended immediately, dark tendrils extending to touch the ground below. Colonel West ordered immediate evacuation, but Ruby knew it was too late. The Devourers consumed rapidly, converting organic matter to energy in seconds. Ruby refused to let grief overwhelm her, focusing instead on protecting the remaining shields, redirecting power and resources where they were most needed. The battle continued through the day, ebbing and flowing as the defense network adapted to Devourer tactics, and the enemies adjusted in return. By nightfall, 7 cities had been lost, but the majority of shields held the Devourer fleet had taken significant damage, losing almost a third of their ships to the combined human and Avarian weapons. It was a stalemate, neither side able to gain a decisive advantage. Ruby released her connection to the node. Exhausted after 12 hours linked to the network, Colonel West helped her to a chair, handing her water and rations. "You need to rest," she said. "We have secondary operators who can maintain the basic systems for a few hours." Ruby nodded, too tired to argue. She slept fitfully in a cot near the command center, waking every time alarms sounded or new reports came in. Lyra stayed nearby, monitoring the battle and providing updates when Ruby woke at dawn. Ruby returned to the node. The situation had deteriorated overnight. 3 more shields had fallen and Devourer ships were beginning to coordinate their attacks, concentrating fire on single locations to overwhelm defenses. "We need to change our approach," Ruby said to Colonel West and the Avarian Council. "The defensive strategy isn't working. We need to take the fight to them. What do you propose?" The Indigo Elder asked. Ruby outlined her plan to reconfigure the shield technology into focused energy projectors that could penetrate Devourer hulls. It would leave some areas unprotected but might allow them to destroy enough enemy ships to force a retreat. The risk was enormous, but continuing as they were meant slow but certain defeat. The Council conferred briefly, then agreed. "We have seen your species' courage," the Elder said. "We trust your judgment." Colonel West looked less certain. "This plan leaves millions vulnerable," she pointed out. "Millions are already vulnerable," Ruby countered, "and will remain so unless we end this. Their ships are factories designed to consume and create more ships. The longer we wait, the stronger they become." Reluctantly, the Colonel approved the plan. Ruby connected to the network again, explaining the strategy to all compatibles. They would need to coordinate, perfectly timing the reconfiguration of shield energy to create weapons powerful enough to breach Devourer defenses. The next hours were the most intense of Ruby's life, as she directed the network through the complex process of shield conversion. While maintaining enough defenses to prevent total catastrophe, she could feel the strain on every compatible, the physical and mental toll of channeling such enormous energy. At exactly noon, the first converted shield fired a concentrated beam of energy at a Devourer ship hovering over Tokyo. The beam cut through the black hole like a scalpel through flesh. The ship shuddered, then exploded in a cascade of dark matter. Similar attacks followed around the globe, some successful, others not. But the pattern was clear. The defense had become an offense. The Devourers responded with increased aggression, targeting the energy projectors and the compatibles controlling them. Ruby felt 3 connections break in rapid succession as compatibles were killed or injured. She gritted her teeth against the pain, focusing on maintaining the network. Despite the losses, Amy Lopez, coordinating from Asia, reported success in destroying 5 ships. But her facility was now under direct attack. Ruby diverted resources to support her. But it might not be enough. The battle had become a race, destroying Devourer ships before they could overwhelm the remaining defenses. 16 hours into the second day, Ruby remained connected to the node, her body protesting. The extended strain Lyra provided energy supplements, and Colonel West urged her to take breaks, but Ruby refused, knowing the network functioned best with her at its center. The compatible with the strongest connection to Avarian technology reports came in continuously, some encouraging others. Devastating regions were lost, cities destroyed, but Devourer ships continued to fall as well. The enemy fleet now reduced by more than half, yet still numbering in the hundreds, enough to consume all life on Earth if not stopped. At sunset, a new threat emerged. The Devourer mothership, a vessel 10 times larger than the others, entered lower orbit, positioning itself above the main defense facility. They have identified the command center, Colonel West said. They are targeting this location specifically. Ruby felt cold fear ripple through her, but pushed it aside, focusing on the network, diverting energy to strengthen the shields over the facility. The mothership began to fire massive energy projectiles that shook the building and strained the shields to their limits. "We cannot withstand this level of attack for long," Lyra warned, checking the shield stability. Ruby made a decision. She gathered energy from across the network, pulling from every compatible, still connected, focusing it into a single massive projection aimed at the Devourer mothership. The strain was immense. She could feel blood running from her nose, her vision blurring at the edges. But she held on. Now she commanded the compatibles. Released the gathered energy as a beam of blinding light shot upward through the shield, connecting with the underside of the mothership. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Ruby woke in a medical facility 3 days after the final battle, her body weak from the strain of maintaining the network for so long. Colonel West was there when she opened her eyes, relief clear on her face. "Welcome back, Commander," the colonel said. "The doctors weren't sure when you'd wake up." Ruby tried to sit up but found she lacked the strength. "How many?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "How many did we lose?" Colonel West understood the question. 37 cities worldwide, she replied. "Approximately 90 million people." She paused, giving Ruby time to absorb the devastating number. "But we saved billions. The Devourers would have consumed the entire planet if not stopped." Ruby closed her eyes, grief washing over her. Each number represented individual lives ended, families destroyed, communities erased. The victory felt hollow in the face of such loss. "You should know," West continued, "the compatibles who followed your lead are being hailed as heroes. Worldwide, the defense network saved humanity. Governments have already agreed to maintain the alliance with the Avarians to prepare for any future attacks." Ruby nodded weakly. "Where is Lyra?" she asked. The colonel smiled slightly, assisting the medical team. "She's barely left your side since you collapsed. She'll be back soon, over the next week." Ruby slowly regained her strength, learning more about the aftermath of the battle. The world had changed fundamentally. Humanity now aware they were not alone in the universe, and that the universe contained terrible dangers. Nations that had been enemies worked together, governments shared resources and technology. The common threat had united people in ways nothing else could have. Lyra visited daily, bringing news from the Avarian Council, and updates on the recovery efforts. The alien looked different. Somehow more at ease among humans, she had adapted to Earth customs, and even begun to appreciate some human foods. The Devourer fleet is gone, Lyra explained during one visit, but not destroyed entirely. Some ships escaped back to deep space. They will return eventually, but not soon. They have never encountered resistance like this before. It will make them cautious. Ruby sat in a wheelchair by the window of her hospital room, looking out at the city beyond. Parts of it showed damage from the battle, but reconstruction was already underway. "How long do we have?" she asked. "Years? Perhaps decades?" Lyra replied. "Time to prepare properly, to build more advanced defenses together," she emphasized. "The last word, our peoples are now bound by shared struggle and victory." 2 weeks after waking, Ruby was released from the hospital. She returned to her house in Millfield, finding it miraculously untouched, though the surrounding area had been transformed. The military base remained, but was now a joint human-Avarian research facility, developing new defensive technology and exploring the possibilities of their alliance. Ruby sat on her porch swing, watching the sunset just as she had done the night. She first spotted the alien ship in the sky. How long ago that seemed now. How much had changed since then? She had changed, become someone she barely recognized, stronger, more confident, but also burdened with knowledge and responsibility she could never set aside. Amy Lopez, now a major, visited, bringing news of the global recovery efforts and the ongoing development of the compatible network. All the surviving compatibles maintained their connection to Avarian technology and to each other, a bond forged in battle that could not be broken. "We still need you, Ruby," Amy said. "The network functions best with you at its center. Your connection to Lyra and through her to all Avarians remains the strongest." Ruby nodded. She had known she could not return to her old life even if she wanted to. The quiet existence of a small town. Nurse belonged to a different world, a different Ruby. Adams, commander, Adams as they called her now, had responsibilities that extended beyond Millfield, beyond Earth itself. The Avarian Council requested a formal meeting 1 month after the battle. Ruby dressed in her new uniform, the crystals embedded in it glowing softly in response to her energy. Colonel West, now General West, accompanied her to the council chamber established in what had once been the main defense facility. The 5 elders waited for them, seated in a semicircle, their silver eyes watching as Ruby approached. She no longer felt intimidated by their alien appearance, having worked alongside Avarians through the most difficult moments of her life. Ruby Adams of Earth, the indigo-skinned elder, began. "You led your people through their greatest trial with courage and wisdom. We have conferred and reached a decision that we hope you will accept." Ruby waited, curious what the council could want from her now. "We propose to establish a permanent embassy on Earth," the elder continued, "a place where our peoples can work together to prepare for future threats and to share knowledge and culture. We ask that you serve as ambassador between humans and Avarians. Your unique compatibility with our technology and your understanding of both species make you ideal for this role." Ruby felt surprise, though perhaps she should have anticipated this. Offer it was a logical extension of the role she had already been playing, linking the two species physically through the network and diplomatically through her work with both military and civilian authorities. General West spoke before Ruby could respond. "Commander Adams has served Earth with distinction. She said we would support this appointment fully, though the final decision must be hers." Ruby considered what accepting would mean. She would stand at the center of a new era for humanity, helping to guide relationships with their first confirmed alien allies and preparing Earth for a dangerous galaxy. But she would also help shape how humans saw themselves, no longer alone in the universe, but part of a larger community of intelligent beings. Accept, Ruby said, feeling the rightness of the decision. "I will serve both our peoples to the best of my ability." The ceremony establishing the Earth Avarian Embassy took place on the grounds of the research facility. 6 weeks later, representatives from every nation attended, along with Avarian dignitaries and all surviving compatibles. Ruby and Lyra stood together, symbolizing the alliance between their species. Afterward, Ruby returned to her porch swing, Lyra joining her as they watched the stars appear in the evening sky. The alien had become family, closer than any human friend could be. their shared experiences and literal energy connection creating a bond that transcended species. "I never wanted any of this," Ruby said quietly. "I never imagined my life would take this path." Lyra touched Ruby's hand gently, her cool blue skin now familiar and comforting. "Few paths in life are straight," she replied, "or predictable. The universe unfolds according to its own design. We can only choose how we walk the path before us." Ruby thought about that choice the moment in her garden when she had rushed to help a fallen alien, the instinct to heal that had set everything else in motion. It had been the simplest decision leading to the most complex consequences. "Do you regret it?" Lyra asked, sensing the direction of Ruby's thoughts. Ruby looked up at the stars knowing that somewhere out there the devourers still existed, but so did other species, other possibilities, other worlds waiting to be discovered. She thought about the network of compatibles spanning the globe, humans connected to each other, and to Avarians by technology and shared purpose. She thought about the lives lost and the billions saved. "No," she said finally, "I don't regret it. It was the right path." "Even if I didn't know where it led," Lyra nodded, understanding, "I believe our peoples were meant to find each other." She said, "Perhaps not in these circumstances, but the connection between us serves a greater purpose than either of us can see." In the year that followed, the embassy became a center for cultural and technological exchange. Humans learned about Avarian medicine, art, and philosophy, while sharing their own creativity and resilience with their new allies. Ruby oversaw it all, working with governments and the compatible network to integrate Avarian technology into Earth defenses and civilian applications. New compatible humans were discovered regularly, each adding strength to the network and bringing unique perspectives to the alliance. Ruby took particular interest in training them, helping them understand their abilities and responsibilities as bridges between species. The devourers did not return, but preparations continued. Advanced warning systems were established throughout the solar system and defense platforms positioned to protect Earth from future attacks. Ruby knew the threat remained, but no longer feared it as she once had. Humanity and Avarians together were stronger than either species alone. 5 years after first contact, Ruby stood with Lyra at the launch of the first joint human-Avarian spacecraft, a vessel designed to explore beyond the solar system and establish contact with other peaceful species. The ship was crewed by both humans and Avarians, including several compatibles trained to operate its advanced systems. As the ship rose into the morning sky, Ruby felt a sense of wonder and hope replacing the fear that had dominated those early days. Earth was no longer isolated. No longer vulnerable, but part of something larger, a community of worlds standing together against threats like the devourers. Sometimes Ruby thought about the night she had first seen Lyra's ship, how different her life might have been if she had stayed inside instead of sitting on her porch, how the course of human history might have changed if someone else had been the first contact, someone who reacted with fear instead of compassion. It reminded her that the smallest choices could have the greatest consequences. In her new role, Ruby traveled worldwide, meeting with leaders, scientists, and ordinary citizens, helping them understand the alliance and its importance.